Hello, everyone, and a very happy Bat Week. My name is Emma Reynolds, and I'm a children's author and illustrator from Manchester, UK. And I made this book called Omar and the Bats, all about bat conservation, rewilding, and community action and activism, and how you can help bats. And I'm so happy to be chatting with Kristen Lear today from Bat Conservation International. Hello.
Hello.
All about being a bat scientist. So hello, Kristen, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be here. It's Bat Week, so it's the best week of the year.
Best week of the year. Yeah, I'm good too. There's so much happening this week. It's really exciting. So would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us what you do.
Absolutely. My name's Dr. Kristen Lear. I work at Bat Conservation International. I am an endangered species interventions specialist, which is basically a long title to say that I work with endangered bat species and how we can protect them. So it's honestly a dream job, dream come true.
That's amazing. So how did you get started in bat conservation?
I actually got started at a very young age. So I got my unofficial start in 6th grade, so when I was 12, when I did my Girl Scout Silver Award, and I built bat houses. I built 4 bat houses to put up in a local park, yeah, where I grew up. So that was obviously a very good learning experience. Although looking back at my the bat houses that I built, they're not the best bat houses. This was a long time ago, and there was still a lot of research going into what makes the best bat house. But still, even though they weren't the best, it was still a great way to get started in the field. And then kind of went on from there to study bats in college. I went to Ohio Wesleyan University and got a Bachelor of Arts in Zoology. And I actually got to study bats in the field. So I got to work, out all night studying bats as an undergrad. And that's when I knew for sure that that's what I wanted to do for my career, was to help protect bats. So it's really been a lifelong dream.
Amazing. I love how you got started. I can just imagine like 12-year-old Kristen, little legend.
Yeah. Yes. Looking
So
back,
cool.
it was a fun time. And now here we are.
Amazing. So what does a typical day at work for you look like? There probably isn't a typical day, but talk us through
Yes.
like what's a officey day and what's like a field day like for you?
Yeah, so obviously with COVID, things have been a lot more officey than would normally be. But a lot of what I do is coordinate and work with partners to do on the ground conservation work. So I lead our agave restoration initiative for endangered pollinating bats across the US, Southwest, and Northern Mexico. And so as part of that, I collaborate a lot with partners in those areas. And so I'm kind of basically designing what we're doing, working with those partners to actually get the work done. So that's a lot of computer work, a lot of meetings, a lot of talking to folks. But then when I'm in the field, I actually get to go. We just got back from West Texas for some work that we're setting up there, and got to meet some new partners and collect some data, work at night with the bats. So that's obviously a really fun time to actually get to do that. And then another really big part of my job is outreach and education. Because bats tend to get a bad rap, but I think there's a huge amount of interest among the general public in learning about bats, more so than there ever has been. And so a lot of what I do is talk to kids and scout groups and public, like Audubon Society groups about bats and how cool they are. So it's basically runs the gamut of all the things that we need to do to protect bats.
That's amazing. That's so varied and important, all the different things you do. That's so interesting. So I saw recently that you met a statue of yourself. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, that was a surreal experience. So I have a statue, a 3D printed statue of myself as part of the If Then exhibit. And the If Then program is a program promoting women in STEM. And so there's 120, actually over 120 If Then ambassadors right now. But we all have statues. We're all in different fields of STEM, and basically we're working to promote STEM careers as an awesome opportunity for girls and for boys, of course. And so It's been, yeah, it was honestly surreal. It's this like bright orange statue. It's life size. It was in Dallas through the weekend. And so I got to meet myself, which is very, very surreal.
Yeah, they were like 3D printed, right?
They were, so they're life size, but they weigh like 20 pounds. So they're made of some, polymer. They're really light. But yeah, we had to get like scanned. So we like stood in this big tent and they did like a big
Oh, that's
3D
cool.
scan. Yeah, and then they printed that from the scan. So it was, like I said, a crazy experience, but really awesome to be part of that initiative.
Yeah, that's going to be so inspiring for so many people.
Yeah.
Great work. So, say it wasn't a COVID-ridden year, what kind of field work would you be getting up to if you were able to do more?
So I would be getting down to Mexico a lot more, and like, again, meeting with our partners. And we do a lot of community work in Mexico. So we're working with the rural communities to plant and restore agave plants to the landscape for endangered pollinating bats like the Mexican long-nosed bat. So I would basically be out there working with the partners to do this work, it's really fun. And so I'm sad we haven't been able to do that. But I have been able to get to West Texas, where we're doing some really cool research, where we're trying to identify the migratory corridor of the Mexican long-nosed bat. We don't really know how it migrates up through the U.S. Southwest. And so we're using some really novel tools like environmental DNA or eDNA to be able to detect where those bats are migrating. So yeah, getting to do all that, it definitely gets me out of the house for sure.
Yeah, that's so like fascinating that you can map it through DNA.
Yeah, we're developing it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's like brand new technology. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know what the agave plant makes, that is the most common thing it makes, tell us what it is.
Tequila.
Hey.
Yep. So we get tequila and mezcal from agave. So without the bats, we would not have agaves or tequila. Very
That's
sad
true.
world. Yeah.
What are some other things that we wouldn't have if it weren't for bats being the sole pollinators?
Oh, we wouldn't have chocolate, which I think is even more sad than not having tequila. Chocolate. We wouldn't have bananas, mangoes. All of these things are pollinated by bats or have historically been pollinated by bats. We wouldn't have the cotton that we wear. We would have, or I'll have to pay a lot more for it because the bats we have here and around the world eat the insect pests that destroy cotton crops and pecan crops, corn crops. So all of these things would be much more expensive if we had them without bats.
Exactly. And I think so many people don't know those things. Until I started researching for the book, I wasn't aware how much they pollinated, and that just blew my mind. And it always blows the kids' minds when I go into schools. They're like, chocolate, oh my gosh. And we go, thank you, bats. And they're all like, yay.
The chocolate's the best
awesome.
for sure.
Yeah. So when you do your community outreach, what's some of the tools you get to get people excited about bats?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, the cool facts about bats, I mean, there's just so many amazing bat facts. Like bat moms can fly with their baby up till the baby's about half of her body weight. And they give birth to their baby when they're about a third of the mom's body weight. So bat moms are super moms. They can fly up to 100 miles an hour, some species of bats. So cool bat facts are obviously one really cool tool to use. But I think there's a lot of really cool hands-on tools and ways you can engage with people. So a lot of what I do, obviously not virtually, but more in person, is doing like mist netting demonstrations where I string up mist nets, which are basically like giant hair nets that we use to catch bats as bat scientists. And I put little toy bats, in the mist net, and then the kids get to put the gloves on, take them out, and then weigh them on the scales that we would use to weigh the bat. So they get to,
That's adorable.
practice being a bat scientist. And Bat Conservation International, we have a Bat Walks Ambassador program. So we get to, we train community groups and zoos across the country to lead their own community bat walks in the evening, where you can actually hear with some really cool acoustic technology, you can hear the bats flying. And again, it just kind of brings bats closer to you as an experience because they're often pretty mysterious, and they're out at night, right? You can't really see them as well as we can see birds. So yeah, just those really hands-on things. Crafts too are always really fun for the kids, bat crafts.
That sounds amazing. I want to do it all.
I know, I know.
So if you were to give some young people some advice about getting into being a bat scientist, could you tell us like what career options there are, like what kind of fields they can get into, and any advice you have for those people?
Absolutely. So obviously there's the kind of more traditional route where you would study biology or zoology, as a degree in college if you wanted to become a bat researcher. And with bat research, if you wanted to work at a university or for the government, there's so many things we don't know about bats still. And so you can study bat genetics, you can study behavior of the bats, you can study conservation or ecology of the bats. And so there are so many things you can study. So that's kind of the more academic route. If you want to go into bat, you can go into bat rehabilitation and become a rehabilitator and actually care for injured and sick bats and release them into the wild. That's a whole nother, career track. You can do conservation outreach and education. So you can get a degree in education or a degree in, environmental education and teach about bats and share bats with others. And the conservation field is what I'm in. So I do have a PhD in integrative conservation. But there's, again, even within conservation, there's so many routes you can take. Social sciences are really important for bat conservation, studying and learning about people and how we can best protect bats. Again, there's so many cool options. So don't limit yourself to just, one thing.
That's super inspiring. Thank you. Do you have a fun bat encounter story?
Yes, I think one of my coolest bat encounters was when I was in Australia. I studied a critically endangered bat species in Australia for a year after college. And I got to go into the maternity cave, which is where the moms gather during the summer and give birth to their pups. And these bats have been in this cave for thousands of years. And every summer, there's about 30 to 40,000 of these bats inside that one cave. And they all roost in this gigantic chamber. And so you can imagine over thousands of years and thousands of bats, what gets left inside the cave and kind of builds up is the guano or bat poop. And so there were literally mounds of guano that were like 30, 40 feet tall, like humongous. And we had to climb, kind of walk up those, like hike up those mounds to go put some study stuff inside the cave. So yeah, I got to climb up gigantic mounds of bat guano, which was quite a surreal and stinky experience. Yeah,
I like that, surreal and stinky.
Yes.
Amazing.
Favorites.
So what can kids do at home to help our bats?
There are lots of things kids can do. So I think one of the biggest things that we can all do, no matter how old we are or where we are, is to share how awesome bats are with others. Tell your friends and family one cool fact you learned, when you read about bats or you watch some cool bat videos. Because like I said, there's all that kind of negative PR surrounding bats, but bats are super important for ecosystems, for the environment, for our economies. So definitely sharing what you know about bats, that will just help over time. That spreads and really helps change people's minds. So I think that's one great thing. If you want to get more hands-on, you can create bat habitat in your yard or your school or your church. If you have area where you can plant a bat garden, you can actually plant night blooming flowers that will open at night and attract nocturnal insects. And then those insects can feed our insectivorous bats. And of course, if you live in a place that has pollinating bats, you can plant those nectar producing flowers for the bats. You can put up a bat house. Maybe not the ones I did in 6th grade, a little better, but there's a lot of great resources online about, good, reputable bat houses. And yeah, just making that safe space for the bats to be able to roam around and have their own home. I think that's a really fun thing we can all do. And just learn as much as you can. We need more bat-advocates or bat advocates, so learn as much as you can.
Excellent answers, and I completely agree with all of that, especially the spreading the good word about bats and how important they are, because the more people that care, the more people want to protect them. So what can parents and teachers do to encourage their kids' passion for science and bats?
Oh, I love that question. Right now, I think we're in a really cool time because there's so many online resources that are available. With COVID, things have changed a bit, but I think it's also given opportunities for these really neat programs. So check out websites like batweek.org, batcon.org. There's lots of resources, kids, crafts, and games, all about bats. There are some lesson plans out there if you're a teacher. I Am a Scientist is an organization that Bat Conservation International partnered with to create 3 bat-centered lesson plans that actually meet the next generation science standards. So definitely check those out, and just bring those resources into your classroom, and just have fun with them. I think there's a lot of great opportunity.
Awesome. So do you have a favorite bat fact?
Yeah, oh my God, like I was saying, there's so many favorite bat facts. I think one of my favorites is the fact that bats can live a really long time. Most bats, bats range in size from like the bumblebee bat, which is the size of your thumb tip, to the bumblebee bat, so cute, all the way to 6-foot wingspans that some of the flying foxes have. So there's lots of range, but the typical bat that we'd see here in the US or in the UK is like, I don't know, palm size or smaller. And if you think about animals like that, like rodents that are very small, have fast metabolisms, just like bats, those animals usually live 2 to 3, maybe 5 years. But the longest known bat recorded in the wild, I believe the record right now is 41 years old. And it was a small bat found in Siberia. And so they really defy that, live fast, die young, have high metabolisms and die young. They defy that. So maybe we can study bats and figure out how we can live to be 300 years old and healthy lives too without cancer, right? So I think, the fountain of youth might lay in bats.
It's amazing. They're 41 years old. That's actually incredible.
It is.
So do you have a favorite thing about being a bat scientist? And it's probably everything, but
yeah, I mean, obviously as a bat scientist, you get to see bats, you get to learn how to study them and how to really protect them. And so getting to see like many different bats around the world, I think is one of my favorite parts, and getting to travel, because bats are found on every continent except Antarctica. So, you can really travel anywhere and study and protect bats. But I think one of my favorite parts being a bat scientist is talking to people about bats and really sharing the world of bats with others, and trying to get that spark going for others.
That's incredible. I've absolutely loved hearing all about your career. You're such an inspiration, and I'm sure it's going to inspire many bat workers, young and old, and people who are interested in getting into science. So is there anything you'd like to give a shout out to, any current projects?
Yeah, like I said, definitely check out those websites, batcon.org, batweek.org. Bat Conservation Trust in the UK has fantastic resources. Obviously, it's Halloween in the US and Bat Week this week, but you can learn about bats at any time of the year. So, definitely check those out. And yeah, just like I said, dive in and learn as much as you can. And, we'd love to have more bat scientists out there in the world. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kristen. I hope you have a wonderful bat week.
Thank you. Bat hands, everyone.
Yeah, bat hands. Bats for life, not just for Halloween.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, have a fantastic day and have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye.